Behold the trumpets! I mean, Trump Vance. Today, we are going to be looking at a document that I have created based on discernment from my past as a cult survivor. When I see things, rhetoric, holy rhetoric, I'm extremely sensitive, you could say, or trained to basically like remove the language of what is, the reasons, the whatever might be wrapping up the actual substance of a thing. And I'll tell you a reason why. So a lot of people don't know. I talk about being in a cult, and I talk about giving everything to a certain individual, specifically Armando Deloa, and then Ephine Palacios. Now, those two men, I mentioned them a lot, but what I never mentioned is how deeply rooted the spiritual realm is. It's not. I didn't. It's not that I had like. It's not that I had daddy issues and needed a daddy. And I understand repetition compulsion and all those things that get you into a certain thing. However, I did have discernment for Christ, and I want to say I did. Yet, besides powerful, I mean, unless he literally had spies tapping people's lives, and I mean, back then, I don't, whatever, but I wouldn't put it past anybody. But there was a prophetic air about him. And, you know, my my late friend David LaPietra and I used to always talk about it. Uh, we both decided, we both knew he was a very evil man. However, we could never figure out, was he a Balaam? Was he a prophet that in whom the gifts of God did not repent, that God allowed him to have these powerful gifts? Or was he a spirit of Antichrist? And so we could never figure it out. And I still don't know to this day. However, what I do know is that there was a time that one of the people from that place, the one that introduced me, actually was through a business venture. We started a little store together, a computer store, and it was right off Clark and Alondra in Bellflower, California. And it just so happened I had a little storefront within, it was a little strip mall. It was like, it wasn't even a strip mall, actually. It was just this little building with like 5 stores, and there was like a TV repair. And then it was our little storefront. And then there was another repair shop. It was real, like, very small place. But it just so happened that right across the street was the dojo. And that dojo was Armando's dojo. And so on this particular day, and I was new to these people, I just wanted to serve the Lord. I wanted to be in business. I had just repented the second time of uh, aspirations in a rap career that had uh, I had forsaken again. And so here I was, not with any skill. I didn't have any skill besides rap. So I was going out on my own, and this was the beginning of this business venture. Right across the street was the dojo. At the time I was living with some Muslim friends in it was a mansion in Corona, and it had holes in the walls, a drug house. Uh, I didn't even have a mattress. I was sleeping on a box spring. And I don't know why, because I had money, but I didn't use it for that. And I I have a feeling that I was being controlled by a spiritual entity, and I am about to publish a testimony. So you can probably look around that, and that testimony will show you what God has brought me from and where he has put me today. So that said, I'm talking to you and I'm still reconstructing my own life. And creating the testimony is helping me to articulate some of the things that um, need to be connected. Now, the point is, while I had money for the business, I'm just now realizing I was a mess. So, so now here I am. I had just repented of, I had just become sober. I had just rededicated myself to the Lord. I had just deleted an entire database of music that I was supposed to bring and discuss with a producer. And I was from the country, North Carolina, Texas. I'm not from a big city, so that was a big deal for me. I had I was 23 years old, and I wanted to serve God. And so when Eric, he told me that he was also wanting to start a business, so we decided that we would put, you know, I have no problem talking, rap and perform, talk, whatever. Like, I don't have a problem with that. Um, you know, I was comfortable with that. He, on the other hand, he was more of a tech person. He was happy fixing computers and whatnot. So we had the great idea to get a storefront. And from that storefront, we, we were in business. So that's why I was there that day, right across the street from the dojo. So they came over, Armando Deloa and the Kempo, martial arts Kempo brothers. They came over and we were all outside of the computer store. We're all just talking, hanging out, and all of a sudden, a loud crash. It was a horrible crash happened right next to us. And we look over, and a white Tundra had just pulled, uh basically T-boned, or a motorcycle, a Harley, a biker dude, like a big heavy bike, just slammed into a white Tundra, and it left a crater in that Tundra that was just horrible. I look over, and there's a man laying on the street. He's a biker dude's full biker gear, got the vest, got the boots, got the pants, all that. He's got his helmet on, and he's on the ground flapping. He's flopping. His torso was sticking out. His arm was over his head as he laid on his back. His arm was just completely broken, stuck up in the air. His eyes went into the back of his head, and he is in a seizure, flopping on the ground. So we all just started to pray. We literally went around him. These are young men, okay? Young men and younger, okay? Because he had a youth ministry. But these boys were truly seeking God. We were broken. We were hungry. And we were drawn to the power of this man, Armando, because there was something about him. It was something that we wanted to be closer to God. But the point is, here we were on the street and we began to pray. Now, I'm going to be careful how I word this because I'm not going to say that our prayers like brought the Holy Spirit down. I'm not going to say that. We started to pray. And as this man is flopping on the ground, Armando went down. And by the way, there's a nurse that pulled up immediately. She's off duty. She runs over to this dude and she's just kind of holding his head. She took off the helmet so that hopefully to help him to breathe. And he was gagging. And it sounded like he was swallowing, like his tongue was in it, like causing him to choke. So she is trying to hold his head so he's not slamming his head on the concrete or the gravel, the asphalt. And Armando, he says to her, like, don't you know you're not supposed to hold his head or move his head? I thought, that's I guess that's pretty accurate. Well, he's on it. But this is the thing. He didn't hesitate. He walked over and I was there first and I saw him approach. And he said, "Don't you know you shouldn't hold his head?" And he went down and his torso is like sticking out on this right side. And before Armando's like the atoms, the energy, the static, before the static touched his chest, his body straightened up, his arm went like this and fell right down to his side. His eyes went back to normal and he woke up and he's like, oh, oh, oh. And the nurse was sitting there looking at him, Armando, with tears coming down her face. And I said, I knew the word of God was true. I knew miracles existed. I knew that God had the power to do these things because in my life, there have been things that I cannot explain, but nothing like this. I've never seen this. This man needed help and God saved his life. I say, God saved his life. Well, right after that, this man asked me for $8,000. Well, I was like, yeah, of course. Of course I'm going to, whatever you need, man of God. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for asking me. Now, did I have $8,000? That's how I was sleeping on the box spring. I had no money, but I had throughout my interpreting sign language interpreting career, I was very careful to take care of my credit. So that's how I know, okay, that's what happened. I used all my credit. I had a credit card. And so I took the money out and I gave him $8,000. And it was to Abundant Life Ministries. And he said, oh, brother, I'm going to need you, if you don't mind, put this in my name because I don't want Sister Rose to see it. And that's already a red flag, right? It's already a red flag. But I didn't, it went over my mind because at that point of my life, I didn't understand what the Bible meant when it says, you shall not take the Lord's name in vain. I never truly understood that there were people that would use God's name to gain something, to steal, to cheat, to tip the scale, to uh to cover up, to deceive. So I was like, yeah, of course, I'll go, So basically that was a cash advance on credit. So I took that money and I gave it to this man. Now I'm completely desolate. And that's what cults do. They take your value, they take your wealth, and now you got to work for it and work for it. You got to work for that soup, whereas you used to have your own kitchen. But now, if you stop, the door is closed. So, all the things that I talk about of this cult and what resulted of God's path, literally through a spiritual wickedness that could essentially raise a dying man, heal a dying man, I am coming to you as a man who had to face that very Armando de Loa 10 years after he cursed me. In the name of Jesus, he cursed me, thus saith the Lord. And I have an email. He told me that the Lord showed me coming to him. A brother, he said. First, he said he had a hood on. He was telling me, and I think what he was doing was trying to make me back off of the revelation that I had received. At first, he said there was a brother who had a hood on and I couldn't see the face, but there was a platter in his hand, and in the silver platter, with lightning striking behind him, he picks up the platter and there are three little cute little bats, he said. And when the brother picked up, lifted the cover, and the three little bats started to screech, the lightning struck, and the voice, he said, judgment to the brother with the false doctrine. And in the document that I have, he spoke mental, financial, and physical destruction. And reprobate is what he determined that I was. Now, a reprobate is somebody who has biblically has their conscience seared with a hot iron so that there is no repentance available. There is no way back from reprobate status. Yet, this holy war that was waged against me, what happened was, in this holy war, I began to see deception that was keeping me away from the boy that I raised in that cult that I actually brought to, and I brought him as a newborn and laid him at the feet of this man of God, Armando. So when I began to see those things, I made a video. And that first video that I made led to information that I was not really expecting. I was just asking the question, could it be that there's some duplicity happening here? Because the power that I witnessed, or the power that was manifesting, was real enough somehow, yet there was wickedness, there was deception. And so I began to speak. And sure enough, it's a wicked spirit that comes out of this uh this man's ministry. I made a video and I made other ones, but the point is, from the day of the first video, 6 months, maybe a few days less, almost 6 months to the day, after 10 years of this holy war being waged against me, 10 years, and I make a video, and within 6 months, Armando de Loa is dead. And I had no idea. This man who spoke all this destruction, including bodily destruction, he literally rotted from the inside out. And that's crazy to me. I'm not like happy about it. Actually, I would have been happy if he stood trial. Now you understand what I'm about to do is I'm about to turn my attention to speak on a behavioral audit of the holy war business. And this is video one of a 3-part series. And this series, these 3 videos are going, I hope, they are going to help you understand what's happening if you are trying to see what it means to be a son, the sons of light. Like the war scroll talks about the sons of light and the sons of darkness. There's going to be a war. And that war is going to be between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. Yet when we look, we're seeing a Babylonian Christianity. And we're seeing the inversion of what's black and what's white. And it's what's white is black and what's black is white. And nothing is as it seems. So now that you understand the seriousness of why these things are important to me, I hope that what I'm about to say equips you for the coming days ahead. So, I grew up in Vale, North Carolina. And I say Vale, North Carolina, even though I've moved ever since I was born. I've moved, I've not stayed in a house until this place that I live now. I probably moved once every 2 years since my house burned down uh, in the summer of 8th grade, after before going into high school in 9th grade. But the reason why I'm mentioning Vale is because it's the Deep South. In Vale, North Carolina, it's West Lincoln High School. West Lincoln High School, when I was there, the mascot was the Confederate flag. And the Confederate flag was actually a war flag. It was a war banner. So you see this banner and it meant something, whatever it meant, or whether it was a division of troops that carried this banner. The point is, it became the symbol of the South. And the thing is, with the symbol of the South, it's 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 linked, it's interlinked, it's interwoven. It's you can't separate it from war, from your country, from patriotism. Okay? So that demographic of people with that kind of frequency, those are the people, those the Christian, okay? We're talking like Southern Baptists. We're talking deep South, uh, rifle bearing, you know, strong men, good men, maybe disturbed, maybe abused, maybe lost, but strong. These are the men that would go to war and fight and die for their country. Not like, I live in Southern California. You have men out here that, they don't vote for conservative and they won't die for anyone. They're not going to be stirred up in this, in what's happening. They're not going to be the sons of light fighting a war they think is holy, but it actually might not be holy. We're talking to the people from the place where I'm from. And just recently, I saw, first of all, I never knew that Vale meant valley. So once I realized that Vale meant valley, I started to write my testimony. My wife just told me like a couple weeks ago because I had reconnected with my mom, and I tried again to like let her to take pictures with the kids, and I tried. It didn't. I couldn't make it. The point is, in that in that short time that we talked again, she said that she was going to buy herself a home in Morganton because of the school for the deaf out there that she used to get dropped off at and spend the deaf children a long time ago used to go to what they called a deaf institute. An institute was more like a deaf school or deaf campus. And so she has those nostalgic feelings because that's where she was able to talk to people. She learned the deaf culture and all that. Now, on a totally entirely unrelated move, my father took me away from my grandmother in Florida, the only caretaker that actually loved me, that cared for me, that actually took me. He took me away from there and moved me to the valley, to Vale. And the address was 10 and 18 Vale, North Carolina. Very easy. So even though my house burned down when I was 14 and I moved away at 15, or I was 13 and I moved away at 15 just before I turned 16 or something like that, 14, 15, I was there from the summer of 8th grade or after 8th grade to 10th, almost 10th grade. And or 10th grade, and I was living in a barn. I was living in a barn with uh, just the wall on the outside, no wall inside. The horse or the beams were still up to the top. They just didn't have the walls that the horses used to actually be in the stalls. So it was just an open barn. And I lived there after my house burned down. But see, I never talked about that really, but that's not even the point. My suffering's not the point. I'm I What happened was I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Uh, I had hopes for like, "Oh, I'm gonna go visit. We'll go visit my mom. We'll go see. We'll go take a trip to Asheville." So I was looking on the map at Morganton, and I just wanted to see how far it was from Asheville, North Carolina. And I realized. Now remember, I moved when I was 14 years old. I didn't live there. I didn't like have a place. I didn't drive around. I did drive around. I took my dad's car all the time, but I didn't. You shouldn't have. So I didn't know the place. This wasn't a place I lived when I was older, but I remembered 10 and 18. So when I looked and I saw, oh, Morganton, oh, 10, or it was like 10. freeway. And then she said Morganton or Hickory. So I'm like, well, what's up with Hickory? So I saw Hickory, and Hickory was like 18. Highway 18 goes from there. And I was like, oh, 10 and 18. I lived at 10 and 18 Vale, North Carolina. Vale. Okay. So from Morganton or Hickory, whichever one, I just followed the freeway or the interstate or whatever. And I saw my house on Highway 10 and 18 in Vale, North Carolina. And my house burned down now, maybe I'm 43. It burned down when I was about 13, 14. So 30 years ago. 30 years ago. And this is not like a off the way place. So let me back up and tell you though, this is the strange part. I came from Florida where I lived with my grandmother. Well, she purchased my dad a mobile home right next to her, so I'm there. My mother is in St. Augustine. They're not even, so when my dad met this woman in North Carolina, her dad built a house a long time ago. His last name was Hunt. He built a beautiful home on a hill, 10 and 18. So my mother's school in the deaf school in Morganton, and my random, my dad's, lover being on 10 and 18 at Vale, and Morganton being my mother's place of interest from childhood, totally different situations. A hearing man built that house. He didn't build it to be close to a deaf school. He built it where he lived, and then he gifted it to his daughter, Sherry Hunt. That was the stepmother. Yet, my mother's telling me about her place that she wants to buy a home, led me right there to that same little square, like what, maybe 20 miles radius or less out of all the world. It led me to an interstate or a freeway, or it's not a freeway, it's an interstate, it's a highway. It's a highway. Just one lane, maybe one lane. I'd be surprised if it was two. When I'm starting my ministry, when I'm trying to tell people that God has revealed something and that I'm supposed to tell you guys, knowing that if, for me, I could barely even hear a sermon from where I'm from. I can't even listen. Matter of fact, I wrote a book just because I can't take it. I can't listen to anybody because of how sensitive I am to bullshit. So here I am trying to book of Elisha, like the audacity of that, first of all. But it's my doctrine, and I'll go into why that was like, you know, a fire in its own right. But I'm about to publish this book. Matter of fact, I already published the book. I had already published the book when I saw this map on Google Map. And because I had already sent the book to my mom. So I sent her a copy of the book. So that's why I know it was already in print. And I'm looking at this map. And actually, my wife, Lindy, says, hey, you know Vale? Or let me, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I scroll down, and you can go 10 and 18 if you want, and scroll down. At the intersection of 10 and 18, 30 years later, the scar is still there on the earth, on the hill. The scar of my story, my testimony, is on a hill that you cannot go into that town from like two major cities. The only really, I don't know if there's any other real major cities, but I mean, whatever. But the point is, they're not even major cities. But the point is, you can't cross or go into that town without seeing a scar of a fire and pillars on the, the driveway. I don't know if the pillars are still there, but the point is, you can still see the driveway, and it leads to nothing but a scar on the earth. And I'm just now understanding that my testimony is important to actually speak, like, who am I? Because how am I going to tell you what I wouldn't even receive? I don't know how I would receive what I'm telling you guys to receive, by the way. That's why I'm working so very hard to figure it out. That's my problem. But I say this because it's in the heart of the Bible Belt. And that's when Lindy said, did you know that Vale literally means valley? And I'm like, you won't see it in the preface of my booklet because, I mean, I probably wouldn't have front loaded all that anyway. But the point is, it's remarkable. It's important that when I heard the voice of God for the first time, I was in preschool. I was at my grandmother's house. That's why I know. I was I was that young, and I was looking out the window. It was a beautiful blue sky in Florida. And I was by myself in the den of her home. And that was the first time I ever heard the voice of God. And right after I heard him speak one word, and I received it. And all of a sudden, I'm whisked away to Vale, North Carolina. I'm taken away from the one person that actually loved me and cared for me. And I was taken into the valley right after I received a word. And that word, it is my identity. It marked my life. And because I received it also. I received it, and I still receive it today, even though at the time I received it because a, a good God spoke to me, and I trusted the voice. I don't know. I trusted the voice, and I still receive it to this day, and I hold it close to my heart. And I'm glad that he has redeemed me out of the dirt, out of addiction, out of brokenness, out of trauma, to be someone. I'm coming out of that valley right now. You guys are witnessing. I'm coming out of the valley, that valley, the darkness that I was pulled into for the first time in my life. That's my testimony. I don't feel like I'm a Southern man. My dad was deaf. I didn't have Southern roots. I don't have a Southern drawl. I didn't listen to country music. I was an abandoned, beaten uh, kid. I was a traumatized kid with no friends. I was shipped to Raleigh to be in a smoke, a musty house while no one was in it. And that was so that my mother could say that, she could have pictures with me. So my story of the South doesn't compute. But it wasn't until I saw the scar on the earth that I realized there's a there's a scar on the earth that for 30 years, every single man, woman, and child that has passed by it has looked up on that hill, the most beautiful choice part of the earth, in a beautiful, magical, wonderful place, has the scar of my testimony. And it brought me to think, and I'm trying to understand why my story is told in a place that, quite frankly, I've had nightmares trying to escape that house for about 30 years. Nightmares, trying to escape my dad, trying to get out of that house, running away from demons, dark spirits chasing me, and I'm running down that hill. And if you see that hill, you can imagine a little boy trying to escape a house. Sometimes I didn't make it out of the house before I woke up because the evil trapped me. And thank God I could wake up and realize it was just a dream. It's just a dream. But that house was a place of nightmares. I wasn't trying to look at that house, much less think that I had something to do with that house. I was always running to the country corner. I was always trying to get to the country corner. That was the safe place. And it's only been through trauma work, actually being able to look in a mirror and see my eyes that look like my father's eyes and not have my heartbeat start to rise. So to see that veil bears the scar of my testimony, it causes me to think that God, my testimony is for them, is for you, the Bible Belt. So with that, this message is for a very specific audience. This message is for those who are willing to die for a cause. And I'm going to go through this so you know that I'm speaking from experience. What I said earlier, Trump Pence, Trump Vance, Trumpets, 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 Trumpets. This is doublespeak. What does that tell you about reality when these great men that we're rooting for can just be like, like a slotted out, and just a new man just gets slotted in there based on the sound of holiness or doublespeak of prophecy. What does that mean also for the Trump it? What does that mean for the people? Are they of any consequence? Are they the earthly rulers, the managers that are just swapped in and out for the same machine? Because the name Pence, Vance, oh, it changed big time. We don't like Pence, we like Vance, Trump Pence. It's still the same machine. It's the same spirit. And now I think because of what's I'm about to talk about, and I know that people see it, I maybe the groundwork has been done for me. However, I still know that if you believe somebody's righteous, it's going to take a lot to free your soul from that thing that you trust if it's not from God. Because I was in a cult that I gave everything to, and I had every warning sign to tell me to get out.